sacred space, African cosmology, African epistemologies, as well as African astrology.
Yes.
Even if it's on theory alone, the fact that it's actually accepted is actually a move in the right direction. I can't imagine that being allowed in pre 2010, for instance. I don't envision it.
Or pre 1994.
Post 1994, I don't see people. I don't foresee or see people as being accepted to even do their thesis for their PhD, particularly on issues of spirituality. It's always, if you look at even the books that were published during apartheid about traditional healers, for instance, majority of them were researched by white scholars that came from Rhodes University, that came from Sussex, and that came from Oxford and Cambridge, and
who had deep pockets, wanted to explore Africa.
And they would go to the villages in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, and would find these women singing and would just take pictures and put them on camera.
And I'm sure some of them were just students.
Well, exactly.
Learning about Africa.
And then in the end, they go back, and then they graduate, and that's the end of it. That's the end of it. And you find that later on, when some of these scholars are dying and their estates are distributed or sold, you find these very old texts, these books, and you're like, how? This is a book that was published as a thesis in 1971, speaking about young girls who are going into Eurooean dancing, and one of them is actually a child of ancestors and so on, and was caught up by Amadlozi at that time. And you ask yourself, why was this accessible to white scholars, and why was it not accessible to
African scholars?
Yes,
because they would do a better job.
Exactly. So for the other one, it's just research. It's just extraction of information. It's just an opportunity for them to say, I went to Africa and I got this kind of research done, and I got the evidence, and here it is. It's just clout. It's just clout, because why should we actually applaud a white scholar from Europe who's coming to investigate about indigenous knowledge in Southern Africa, whereas for the longest time, people from Southern Africa were prevented and prohibited from embarking on that journey, and not just on the academic side, but on the physical and spiritual side. This was banned.
Side,
It was banned and was regarded as part of witchcraft. And as of 1957, that act prohibited any form of research, any form of spiritual practice, any form of spiritual consultation. And as I said in our previous talk, that there was a point when we were growing up in South Africa whereby traditional healers were almost absent. You would swear they did not exist.
Yes, it did say there was a law that prevented.
It prevented them.
I think it was called witchcraft or something.
Prohibition of Witchcraft Act of 1957 under the new apartheid system. And you ask yourself, hey man, but our people had no access to that. But funny enough, white South Africans, and in fact any white person that came with a camera and the crew would be allowed to capture these people, and you find yourself.
And our welcoming villages would welcome these charlatans.
These charlatans, because they are white, and also the fear of saying the fear of, if you reject these people, it will be treason in South Africa, because it allowed them, because of their color of their skin. But now what is very painful is the fact that they were there to extract, to excavate all the indigenous sacred knowledge that belonged to us.
Yes.
And they used it for whatever,
frivolous
things they want, misconception and direction they want to perpetuate in a negative, way in the West. So these are the things that were expected to be answered after 1994. These are the things. It was not just political liberation. It was not just security liberation or economic liberation. These are our very, very sensitive, sacred beginnings.
Yes.
That even our leaders,
our DNA,
this is, and our leaders are trampling all over that. They don't care. The only time they acknowledge, indigenous knowledge, politicians, is when they want to move from one position to another. They know that I have to go slaughter a cow. I have to go and consult from a traditional healer. I have to fix
I have to speak to the king. I'm gonna need votes.
I'm gonna need votes. I'm gonna speak to my people. I'm gonna fix my household and feed the whole village.
Yes,
that's gross manipulation, because there's nothing to teach or learn from that. It's just manipulation, because you know that you are now in a democratic society whereby you are allowed to perform rituals. And you are now manipulating even your ancestors by saying, if I give you 2 cows and I slaughter them for you, and however drums of mkomboti, and how many what bottles of what, and it's an act. It's an act just to say, I want to move from being an MEC to a minister.
Help me get what I want.
Help me get what I want. And